Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. If you're an SEC fan, it's week one of the college football season. If you're a Big 12 fan, you're probably thinking, let's just get this over with already because good Lord, it can't get much worse. If you're a Big 10 fan, well, we're going to get to that, huh, Carla?
Yes, we are.
This is the Carla and Crappy Show. If you've been with us for the whole time, this is week 4 of the 2020 football season. Carla, how you doing?
I'm doing. It's fall, y'all. I'm so happy.
The weather has been so awesome.
It's actually even been really good here. Like by southern standards, like it's been in like the mid to low 70s, dropping down into the 50s at night.
Yeah.
That's a crisp feeling in the air. We've had the windows open all day today. Like it's awesome.
Yes.
It's still not quite cold enough to go get like hot coffee at Starbucks, but we're real close.
Okay.
Real close.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, today was sunny. It was the high of 70. Low when we got up this morning, it was in the upper 40s. It felt so awesome. And I'll just keep this for however long it wants to.
Same.
Yeah.
Mid 70s, dropping like this, like a little bit of sun in the air, like this, like that's my perfect. Like I could do that year round. It's part of the reason I moved south.
Okay. Stuff is getting interesting. And we have a few things to cover before we get to our games this weekend. But I want to start, as we often do, just kind of looking back at last weekend to see if anything stood out to you. Obviously, we focused on 57 different games last weekend, and actually a couple of the ones that we didn't pick. I noticed you said those were the most entertaining ones that you came across. But what stuck out for you from last weekend?
That was actually exactly what I had written down. The fact that we talked about 57 games ish.
Yeah.
Give or take 4 or 5. And three of and one of the games that we talked about didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because like literally as you were posting the show, it was canceled.
Right.
And then a game that we thought was probably going to be canceled ended up being played. That was the Navy Tulane game because we thought that was going to be wiped out because of the storm coming through. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, and it ended up being one of the best games of the day. If you like drama. So we talked about 6 games, and this is just proof that we have no idea season lives on into week 3, because we picked the games we thought were going to be the ones that you wanted to watch, and literally I was texting with AJ because we both figured you had gone to bed. We were both up watching the end of the Louisiana Tech Southern Miss game. Mm-hmm. Which was insane. It was not a touchdown, and then it was a touchdown, and it was just, and it was legitimately, it was a catch. It was a good touchdown. It should have been called that way. 100% with the refs on that. But yeah, it was just one of those like, okay, so like none of the games we talked about ended up being super competitive. Miami, Louisville ended up being a snooze fest, and we got it wrong. Mm-hmm. Snooze fest if you like competitive games. That's what it was an entertaining football game, but not close.
Right.
And I spent more time watching Group of 5 teams on Saturday night because I just got bored with the ACC. That was my one thing, is that we still can't figure out what games are going to be the most entertaining, and maybe that's just like the epitome of 2020 right there.
I mean, that is the college football version of 2020. It's like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but at this point, it's like, okay,
what does?
That's fine. One of the things that did not make sense to me in the games that, and these are games that we did pick. Watching Tulsa and Oklahoma State, and there are people in this world who have Oklahoma State picked as a Final Four team. And I suppose on paper, with Spencer Sanders at quarterback, that's a possibility. Although I mean, he didn't get to play a whole lot before he left the game against Tulsa with an injury. But the offense, the Cowboys' vaunted offense, was not exactly lighting the world on fire when at the outside of that game. It took, I don't know if a Chuba's issue was because, Oklahoma State's ended up playing with a third string quarterback, and so they can just focus on the run. But he didn't get going until late. The Oklahoma State's defense played well. but geez, guys, that's not a national championship contender, unless something dramatic changes. You can also ask the same question about Notre Dame, and compared with the week one game, compared with their opener, they looked it on Saturday against a pretty good South Florida team.
Yep.
Ian Book is sort of, no one's going to mistake him for Joe Montana. He was a respectable quarterback, and that's probably his ceiling. And then this guy, Sibo Flemister. Sibo Flemister. He was one of the committee running backs last year for Notre Dame. He broke out with a 130-yard performance, just under 9 yards a carry. Granted, against South Florida, but that's the kind of thing that Notre Dame needs to be a contender. Are they still going to be a contender?
Well, you bring up a really interesting point there. This is something that I didn't write down, but something that caught my attention on Saturday with Notre Dame. Because you could actually almost compare Notre Dame and Clemson oranges to oranges last week, because they're both kind of playing cupcakes, and arguably Notre Dame had the tougher opponent. South Florida is traditionally a stronger team than the Citadel.
Right.
And they both teams had shutouts, so both Notre Dame and Clemson shut out their opponents, but Notre Dame put more points on the board. And I think that's an eyebrow raiser for the ACC. I think that's something they should be paying attention to, that technically Notre Dame played a tougher team than Clemson did, and Notre Dame put more points on the board than Clemson did. Yeah. And I think that, you said that all along, that Notre Dame is going to be a contender in the ACC. I think they're going to be right there, but I was still leaning more Clemson. I'm scratching my head a little bit now. If that holds up, I think Notre Dame Clemson is going to be one heck of a game.
That could be. I was looking when I made my initial assessment about Notre Dame being a Final Four team. I was looking at the ACC schedule, and it's like, well, yeah, Clemson's a tough game. UNC's probably a tough game. There isn't much else.
Nothing else. Yeah.
So if it works out that way for both of those teams, for Notre Dame and for Clemson, that is a de facto title game for the conference, could be, and it'll be a fun one to watch. But the larger thing that you have to ask about Notre Dame actually being a playoff contender is, I made that assessment when there was one less conference getting ready to play college football. Since we talked about this last week, since it was the day after we taped the show, the Big Ten said, okay, yeah, we're coming back on October 24th. First off, just your thoughts, your impressions. It's coming, whether or not we think it should happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. The number one thing that I had was that when I reviewed how they set it all up was just, I absolutely despise the way that they set this up.
Okay.
Not having bye weeks in there is just a recipe for disaster. Because we've seen this happen already. Like, there's a game already canceled this week. Notre Dame's game is canceled this week. And that kind of stuff's going to happen. Like, you're going to have teams and games that are going to be disrupted by the rate of COVID within a team. So your infection rate, that's the word I was looking for. You're going to have those kinds of postponements, and the Big Ten didn't build a contingency plan into its schedule. So if you cancel a game, there's no chance of it being made up. And so how do you even determine who wins the Big Ten? Or wins a division if crucial matchups within a division get canceled because they can't play that week and they can't make the game up. You're going to end up with like a 4-4 team and a 3-1 team potentially. Like, that's a legitimate possibility with the way they set this Big Ten schedule up, and I think that's not a good thing. I would have liked to have seen them put something in there so that we could get a little bit of equity. And I understand they were running up against the clock and not the clock, the calendar. They're running up against the calendar and trying to get into the playoff and how that's all going to happen. And I would have rather have seen the Big Ten only play 6 games and leave 2 bye weeks in there so that they could actually play a full 6.
What we mentioned last week. Yeah. If we hadn't had the, I guess I can't call it indecision, but the original schedule was very well thought out.
It was
the original COVID schedule, not the original
right.
schedule. We have to make allowance for the 2020 in there.
Version C.
And that's But I mean, but they had bye weeks built in. So there's time to recover if there's time to reschedule games. And I'm boy, I mean, it is a huge roll of dice. The other thing is, and this is, I don't think this is inappropriate, because it speaks to safety of the players. The automatic 3-week, you're out if you test positive. But that is potential, has the potential to be another kind of wrench in the season. Depending on, is it a guy on the punt team? Is it your starting quarterback who's out for 3 weeks? That can upset the balance of things as well. And they gave themselves no wiggle room with this.
Right.
I'm a demented college football fan, and I'm going to be excited to see Ohio State start the season. But I mean, that may be the as big a nail biter as just watching the games. So we'll see how it goes. But geez, maybe I did, if we do this back and forth thing, maybe it would have been best just to start when you said you were going to start, and do it the way you said you were going to do it, because that way made a lot more sense to my way of thinking.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how long the Big Ten season is going to end up lasting, because there's an infection rate percentage too, that if your team reaches above that rate, that you have to shut it down.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the Big Ten is going to last. The one thing I was happy about for a show purposes is the fact that I think either way, regardless of how it all plays out, we're going to get rivalry week round 2 this season.
Yes,
because in week 2 of the Big Ten season, we get Ohio State, Penn State in Beaver Stadium on Halloween.
Yes.
I was very happy to see that game early in the schedule, so that we at least get one rivalry between us before possibly this thing has to shut down. Like I hope it doesn't. I say that all the time. Like I hope it doesn't. I hope it works.
Yes,
but it's a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One additional thing that we should do, because. And I spoke to this a little bit on the first weekend, the first show of the season. Had there been Big Ten football at that point, my Final Four would have been different. And it is not going to be a surprise to anybody where I'm going with this. But I thought we should take an opportunity. I mean, Notre Dame is an example, right? The Big Ten, I think, probably has 3 legitimate national championship contenders, and that would be Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin. When you throw those teams in the mix, does Notre Dame still measure up? Well, actually, maybe they do, because they looked really good on last weekend. Although now they've got enough cases that they can't play this weekend, and that's here we go.
Right.
Anyway, we're gonna take a look and at the possibility of a do-over for our Final Fours. I don't know if you have any changes you want to make, but I will let you take first crack at this.
Okay. I have one change I want to make based on this, and I hedge my bet on a second change. I'm not going to, but it wouldn't stun me.
Okay.
If there is a change here, so I'm going to stick with 2 teams from the SEC.
Okay.
I feel really strongly about both Alabama and Florida. I think they're both top 5 teams. Mm-hmm. And I really think that the schedule lays out well for both of them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be your SEC title game, and it's not going to matter who wins it. They're both in. Okay. The ACC is interesting now, because I had automatically put Clemson in, right? That's the thing. Alabama, right. Clemson automatically go in. I'm going to keep Clemson in, but I'm going to be biting my nails the rest of the season by keeping Clemson in, because I am impressed by what Notre Dame has done. Of course, now if they're going to start battling health issues, then maybe that impacts things, unfortunately. but I'm going to hedge my bet and stick with Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
One of these teams is not like the other. I say that every year about a Big 12 team. And I had Oklahoma in my Final Four because I figured that the committee would want to put another conference that was playing football into the national title mix. But by Big 12. I've wanted to do that for a while. I'm going to bash the Big 12 quite a bit this week.
Goodbye.
So goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. That's back now. Yay. Weakest link is back. So I can use that again.
Yes.
Big 12. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And I'm going to put the winner of the Big 10 in, which for now I'll go with Ohio State. For now,
that's fine. I understand hedging that a little bit. So yeah, that works for me.
So that's my new Final Four, which is only changes one team. So Alabama, Florida, Clemson, and Ohio State.
I have the same Final Four. I am not going to do what I threatened to do in week one and put Ohio State at the top of the list. If we're playing roughly the same schedule and we'd have a little bit better comparison, then maybe. But so my 3 and 4, shifting down from 2 and 3. Respectively, are Alabama and Florida. I have Clemson at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, and I'm not completely sold on Clemson at this point. I because of just the comparisons that we can make so far with Clemson and Notre Dame, but for right now. I think that the stuff that has changed with the Big Ten coming into this, that eliminates some of what I saw about Notre Dame's advantage when we were starting the season. So for right now, Notre Dame's first team out, but we'll watch the ACC, and that actually could turn out to be more interesting than we thought. Before we get to the games that you and I are going to talk about, we should check in with AJ. I assume he's rested up from a group of 5 fest last weekend, but there are more games this weekend. AJ, what's coming?
Hey everyone, it's your buddy AJ, talking to you about your group of 5 games of the week. Hopefully none of these get canceled like half of them did last week, but still. We're going to start with Georgia Southern at the University of Louisiana Lafayette at noon on ESPN2. ULL favored by 11.5 here. Should be a fun challenge for ULL. Georgia Southern, a strong option team. ULL should be fine. They've been giving up about 190 yards of rushing a game. There's only been 2 games, so we don't have a ton to go off of there. ULL should be fine, but Georgia Southern might give them a run for their money. 2:30 p.m. on Stadium, Tulane at Southern Miss. Tulane favored by 3.5. This should be a pretty close game. Southern Miss fired their coach after their first game of the season. Last week was first game for Southern Miss coach Scotty Walden, who is 30 years old, which I now feel how crap he feels when he sees young coaches get hired. He is an absolute blast to watch. That guy was all over the sidelines getting his entire team hyped up. This could be very, very close. This is the first game at home for Southern Miss since Scotty Walden was hired. So hopefully they get a win for Coach Walden. But Tulane is a very good team, so this should be pretty close. And finally, at 10:15 p.m. on ESPN, our first true After Dark game of the year. It is September 24th, and it is a shame that we had to wait this long. Troy at BYU. BYU is favored by 14. Trust in the Troy Trojans. They'll probably cover. Hopefully they make this fun. There's only been one game for each team so far, so all of the stats are based on one game. Troy and BYU looked fantastic in both of their opening games. And then they didn't play any more games after that for various COVID reasons. So there's not a lot to go on, but who cares? Let's get weird. It's after 10:15 on the East Coast. We've got After Dark in Provo. I mean, what more do you want to ask for? Oh, I know what more I want to ask for. Pac-12 is back on November 6th, and the Mountain West is back on October 24th, which means we're going to have more late-night football back. I'm very, very excited for both of those things. So stick around. This season is all over the place. And we'll be here to try and not even make any sort of real sense of it. But hey, That's what college football is all about. None of it ever makes any sense. Carla, Crappy, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kufdick. We will get to our games. We're sticking with the traditional 3 instead of 57 this time. No bell, Patrick, you're good. No bell. We have ranked on ranked teams this time. So this is a kind of a first for this weekend. Pardon me, starting at noon on Saturday, number 23, Kentucky at number 8, Auburn. Auburn's only favored by 7.5 points. And of course, we return to the most Southern quarterback name of all time since Peyton Manning, Bo Nix. Bo Nix. We talked about him a lot last year. How's he going to look this year, Carla?
Well, that's a really interesting question. First of all, Kentucky is ranked. I hear everybody scratching their heads right now, right? No, we're not talking basketball. The Kentucky football Wildcats are indeed ranked number 23 in the country right now. Of course, they also haven't played a snap yet, so enjoy it while you got it. But I say that in tongue in cheek because obviously Kentucky's, they're rabid basketball fans. But Kentucky's going to be pretty darn good this year. At least on paper, when you look at them. They finished strong last year. They finished 2019 winning 5 of their last 7, including a nice bowl win. Right. Big question for Kentucky right now is, okay, so like Lynn Bowden did everything last year for Kentucky. He was the team's, I wrote this all down. He was the team's leading rusher. He was the team's top receiver, and he even played quarterback for part of the year. So the kid does everything, right? If you're all-purpose player, it's him. And he's gone. So that makes you scratch your head as okay, so what's Kentucky going to be like? Interesting. They're getting their quarterback back actually. So Terry Wilson had been quarterback, got hurt in week 2 last year with a really bad knee injury. So he missed most of the season, is coming back, and he's got experience around him, including probably one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. So this is a team that likes to run the football. Kentucky runs the football well behind that big O-line. That's what you do. And you add Wilson, who could get a little bit of a passing attack. He's a lot like Ian Book, right? He's a little bit of a game manager, but that's all he has to be because he's got that big O-line in front of him and they can run the football. So Wilson just has to loosen it up a little bit, and he's mobile too. So he just needs to loosen up that defense a little bit, and Kentucky's going to has the potential to be pretty darn good this year. And defensively, I mean, Kentucky was in the top in the SEC last year in defense, and they've got a lot of guys coming back. This could be a really, really good Kentucky team. And then you have Auburn, who has Bo Nix. And not much else right now. Everyone else is gone. We joked about during the NFL draft. We were texting each other or on Twitter. I don't remember what we were doing, but talking about how the entire LSU team got drafted.
Yes. By the Browns.
Yeah, right. And don't make me root for Cincinnati. Because Joe Burrow actually looked pretty good in his first 2 starts, and I got to root for that kid a little bit. But ick Bengals. Okay. Yeah. Got that on my system. I don't know what Auburn's going to be. Nobody knows what Auburn's going to be other than Bo Nix. They're replacing 14 starters. Yes. And their leading rusher from last year, Jatarvius Whitlow, who tore up the SEC on the ground last year, entered the transfer portal before the season started. So Auburn has Bo Nix, probably a true freshman running back who might compete with our good friend Gainwell at Memphis for the best running back name. His name is Tank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby. So we got Tank Bigsby. We got Sebo Flemister.
Yes.
At Notre Dame. There's We're gonna have to do a show about this at some point this season.
About the all-name team. Yeah. So Tank Bigsby, a true freshman, is probably going to get the start. For Auburn. They've got 4 new starters on the offensive line. And the secondary is rebuilding. This is the season where where nothing matters, right? We've said this enough. We don't know.
No, we have no idea.
I'm going to make a pick right now that I'm going to regret before lunch on Saturday.
Okay.
Kentucky wins this football game.
Oh.
I'm going to take a strong defense and a strong offensive line against a whole bunch of unknowns at Auburn. We know what we're getting with Kentucky, and it could be pretty darn good. So it's, we have no idea what the heck. Like, I was wrong about everything last week. I've been wrong about everything since the beginning. Like,
yes.
Let's just throw caution to the wind.
Why not? What are we gonna? What do you get to lose?
CATS.
This is
Cats,
great.
Cats.
This is great, actually. I will stipulate. Bo Nix is, if he's got anybody around him,
he's good.
He was a good quarterback as a true freshman. Really took care of the ball well. And
looks the part.
Man,
He
is going to get better and better every single year. I would expect that. I would expect to see that kind of progress. Even it's right out of the gate this year. But the questions, I mean, does he have anybody around him? Auburn had a killer defensive line last year, and I would look at if that was still the case, I would look at them versus a Kentucky rushing attack and think, that's a stalemate. That's something to be interesting to watch. And then there's things about is it the Auburn team that beat Alabama last year, or is it the one that lost to Minnesota in the Outback Bowl? We know what we're getting with Kentucky. We're getting a solid quarterback who doesn't have to throw. He has to throw enough just to keep defenses honest. They should be able to run the ball on anybody with the experience and talent they have on the offensive line. And I swear to God, Carla, I have this in my notes as well. Kentucky wins on the road.
How quickly are we both going? Like, that's before lunch for me. Like, that's an 11 a.m. kick for me.
That's
before lunch. I'm probably going to regret that. But like, on paper, I'm stunned by this next one because I live in Pittsburgh, and to be talking about the Pitt Panthers, even at this point in the season, is about the most 2020 thing ever. And they're not playing Penn State.
No, they're not playing
Which
Penn
is the only
State.
time we ever talked about Pitt.
Yeah, it's number 24, Louisville, visits number 21, Pitt, in the Mustard Bowl. Pitt is favored by 3. I assume mostly because no one thinks the Panthers can go 3-0 to start a season. Carla, do you?
God, I hate to say this. This is another one of those games that, like, 2020 caution to the wind, right? Because I was sold on Louisville last week. I was 100% sold on Louisville, and then I watched them just flat out lay an egg against Miami.
Not a whole lot of defense on that team.
No, not a whole lot of defense, which is the exact opposite of Pitt, right? I mean, Pitt's got the number 1 defense in the country right now, or number 1 rushing defense, number 3 overall in the nation right now, which feels appropriate playing at Heinz Field. That fits the stadium aesthetic well. Numbers-wise, this is a strength-on-strength matchup. Right? You've got the Pitt defense, and I wrote down in my notes, is Pitt's defense up to the task of this kind of offense? Because you look at who Pitt has played the first couple of weeks and you go, okay, yeah, a little bit lightweight.
Yes.
So maybe those numbers are a little bit inflated. They haven't seen an offense like Louisville's, and Louisville's offense can be really, really good. Louisville offense has averaged over 500 yards per game in their first 2 games, and one of those games was a loss. Right? The Pitt defense has only allowed 150-ish yards per game and only 26 yards per game rushing. But that's not necessarily a problem against Louisville, who likes to throw the football. Right. So it's a really intriguing matchup. My concern here is that if Louisville somehow managed to extend the lead to like a 2-score game, I don't know if Pitt can keep up at that point, because I don't know if the Pitt offense is okay. Overcame a lot of mistakes last week against
Syracuse.
Narduzzi called the game sloppy after the game. The offense for Pitt in general is just still kind of a mystery. Who's going to lead at running back? Like, we still don't know, right? And Kenny Pickett, he's been solid, not spectacular, but like he's done what he needed to do. So like this is a decent Pitt offense, but can it keep up with a Louisville offense? And this is another one of those we have no idea kind of games. I really don't know. I tend to lean defense. Like that's my thing. Like I think if you have a really, really good defense, that then a mediocre offense can keep up. Yeah. And win a game. Pitt playing at home. my Penn State heart really hates saying this, but I think Pitt wins this game. I think it's gonna be real close. I think it's gonna be super competitive and a really fun game to watch at Heinz. But I'm gonna take a strong defense every day. Like that's just where my heart settles, and I don't think Louisville can stop Pitt. Even if their offense is not quite as spectacular or big play ish.
Sure.
Then Louisville, I'll take Pitt at home and say they go 3-0, and I can't believe I just said that. 2020.
I mean, Pitt's offense is solid. This is a little hard to gauge because you don't, against who? Against Austin Peay and against Syracuse.
Yeah.
That makes the defense tough to gauge as well. Although Pitt's run defense, really strong, especially defensive line, good front seven. This week, does that translate from rush defense to pressure on the passer? Maybe. I think you're correct. If something happens and Louisville is able to score early and get up early, then maybe there's a challenge for the Panthers and Kenny Pickett to kind of to get back in the game. Although they managed to do that against UCF last year, and that was kind of their sort of the marquee win for the season. We don't know exactly what Pitt's defense is going to be and how that's going to cope with Louisville's offense. We do know from last week about Louisville's defense, and it's just not good. So I think that the Pitt's defense is going to be enough to slow the Cardinals down. Pickett is able to keep up. And then, hey, Pittsburgh, you're about to have a 3-0 college football team in town, which is an odd thing. But, yeah, there you go.
2020.
It is 2020.
It's also interesting. They're wearing, I forgot to mention this, that I saw a report that they're wearing special unis this weekend that are going to be black, silver, and gold.
Yes, they are. At some point, Nike visited in the last couple of years when they were getting ready to return to the old kind of bright blue and gold Pitt script, all that old school stuff. And the Nike designers were really intrigued by the Cathedral of Learning, which is a huge tower classroom in the middle of campus.
It's gorgeous. I'm not a Pitt fan, and it's spectacular if you've never seen it.
It is, and they were especially intrigued by the by like the metal, the steel frame of the building. They got a behind the scenes tour and stuff. So the design, and I've seen you've seen how Nike does this. You don't really get a really good look at the uniform until they actually come on the field on Saturday. But the pictures that we ran today in my employer's publication is it looks really cool. So that'll be kind of a cool thing, and I'm sure available for Pitt fans to purchase here sometime soon. I did want to mention one more thing. This is a reference. Austin Peay's season and the Show Me the Money tour is now complete. They are 0-3, and if you look at the team's page on ESPN.com, you'll see that at 0-3. The Governors finished first in the Ohio Valley Conference. So let's congratulate Austin Peay on the OVC championship. If someone wants to grab me a T-shirt, I would wear it proudly. That'd be fine. I have
connections there. I'll make phone calls.
Okay.
If they do, Austin Peay, if you don't make those T-shirts, shame on you.
You got to. I just another side note about that. I think I saw today that there's going to be like a full FCS season in the spring, including with the championship. It's a shorter season, but they're making plans to do that. So we will have college football in the spring.
I think I saw like a 16 team team bracket.
Yeah.
So. More brackets to fill out in the spring.
More brackets.
I love it.
This is outstanding. At 3:30 on Saturday. In the lovely city of Cincinnati, Kentucky, number 22 Army at 14 Cincinnati. The Bearcats are favored by 14. This is why I've got my stuff on. because we're going to find out exactly what Army is. We didn't have that chance last week. And unfortunately, well, I don't want to jump the gun. Carla, go ahead.
I was going to say, we just said the same thing. And my notes say, let's see what you got, Army. Here we go. Because we talked about this like when we were waiting for the Army BYU game, or after Army after BYU went and laid the egg at or BYU went and demolished Navy,
destroyed Navy. Yeah.
We were talking about this idea of some of these teams that wouldn't have anybody else. They don't have any other competition. And what happens if BYU ends up like running the table? We could say the same thing about Army when we talk about them. This is kind of it for Army, other than if they get the BYU game rescheduled, which I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Yeah. And Navy at the end of the year, because that's always interesting. But I think right now, if you had to look at both of these teams, you would still give Army the edge there, which again hurts my heart to say. But Navy needed a late comeback against Tulane. So
they're practicing tackling now, so that should help.
That should help. Yeah, and they were playing in a rainstorm and a partial hurricane, so that helped too. But this is kind of Army's like big game of the year, right? Like they have nothing else to look forward to other than this game, other than the Army Navy game at the end of the year. It's gonna be real interesting watching this Army defense. The first thing I wrote here in my notes is the Army defense against the Cincinnati running attack. I don't know if you did if you look carefully at the way that Cincinnati ran the ball last week. I mean, Cincinnati's played one game, right? Jared Dokes had 10 carries and 3 rushing touchdowns. So that was pretty good effort. But if you don't count the quarterback, 8 other players had carries. We want to talk about a fleet of running backs? Hello, Cincinnati. Now, true, some of them only had 1 carry, and it was the end of the game, and they were up big over Austin Peay and whatever. So, yes. So that's true, but I mean, they still had probably 4 or 5 backs that were getting decent numbers of carries, and that doesn't even count your quarterback, Desmond Ridder, who technically led the team in rushing in that game. So the Cincinnati run game is really, really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Army defense handles that. Cincinnati has 16 returning starters. They've got experience on their side of the ball. Flipping that over the other way around, they look at Army against this team. Is Cincinnati ready to defend an option team? Right? That's the thing. It's the second game of the season.
Always the question.
That's always the question when we talk about these option teams. Last week, the Cincinnati defense held Austin Peay scoreless until late into the game. And then once they got their second teamers in, that was when they gave up some of their points. So the defense did okay against Austin Peay, but now this is a completely different beast. Army's only allowed 7 points all season against okay competition. This is another I have no idea game because we know nothing about Cincinnati. They played Austin Peay.
I'm looking for a quarter or something I can flip.
Flip a coin, right? Yeah. When I did my notes and I did my research, I circled Cincinnati.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 16 returning starters. There's some experience there. They're playing at home. They don't have to travel. Not that home field means anything this year. But I don't know. I feel like I'm going to give the edge to Cincinnati, but yeah, I could really flip a coin on this one. Because like I said, this is it for Navy or for Army. This is it. This is their game. If they win this game, they can run the table.
Yeah. Boy, would that be fun.
Yeah, and then we have one heck of a conversation, right?
Yep.
A little bit later, if we end up with a military academy that's gone undefeated, then what do you do? So I'm gonna stick with what I circled and I did my research, and that was Cincinnati. I'm gonna stick with it, but I don't like the pick.
Okay. This is I think the Bearcats have a legit claim to whatever the best group of 5 team in the country at this moment. I'll be granted, very small sample size.
But I think it would be them and Marshall. I think those two teams kind of are kind of, because I mean what they did to Appy State was pretty impressive.
But then when you look at Army, there's stuff that's in play all the time, which is the triple option. It's a pain in the ass to defend. They hang on to the ball forever, and this will be the fourth or fifth time I've said that this season. I've said this season, they want to possess the ball for a really long period, for the entire
drives.
quarter.
Yeah.
Then score, and then so you can't score if they're still running the ball at you. So that plays in Army's favor, regardless of who they're playing, unless it's another service academy that runs the same offense. The other thing that's in play this year is what appears to be really good defense. Now this is going to be a whole different situation. This is a whole different level of competition than they've seen so far. But if their defense plays as well as it has, it really could slow down Cincinnati's rushing attack. I don't know, since Cincinnati's leading receiver is going to miss this game with a knee injury. So do the Bearcats, as we were talking about with Pitt, do the Bearcats, can they score quickly? If they have a limited amount of time with the ball, can they take advantage of that with just a running game? I don't know. I think I have to lean Cincinnati. I think you'd be crazy not to. But again, this is one of those weird things that, because Army is what it is, it presents a unique challenge. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised. I won't be surprised. And I do think this is still a game that Army is still in reach in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I think you have to pick Cincinnati, but I would not be surprised if this is a really, really tight game. So, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Take the under. Yeah. I don't care what the line, I don't care what that was, but yeah, take the under. This could be one of your epic 9-6 games. I mean, it really could.
If it is a 9-6 game, get a late bet in on Army, because that's how that's going to go. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever Google service is called these days, Stitcher, TuneIn, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you don't, mind your own damn business. And whatever you do, it's 2020, guys. We're going to get things wrong, but we'll come back next week and we'll laugh about it. Carla, do you have any final thoughts?
Welcome back, SEC. We'll enjoy you as long as you last. A couple of that's kind of the way we talk about football for every conference this year. Yeah. Couple of very quick games to mention. Florida at Ole Miss. Welcome back, Lane Kiffin. Florida's going to win that game because obviously I've got Florida in my Final Four. I think Florida's going to be a real good football team this year. But it'll be interesting to see the dynamic there.
Ole Miss and Alabama's in like 2 weeks. Is that? I think that's right.
So. Yeah, I think it's in 2 weeks, and I think
that's going to be a joyous reunion.
Yes, it is, and I think we'll actually get that game in, which is nice. That's one of those games that you hope actually makes it on the schedule.
Yes.
So I think we'll get that game in. So that I'm looking forward to that one. But the game that I really kind of have my eye on is Mississippi State at LSU. And I said I was going to bash the Big 12 in this. This is a game that could be what the Big 12 could be if it decided it wanted to play defense. Because you have an LSU team that runs pro style, right? We talked about that last year. Like, LSU's running pro style, and okay, it got them a national title. Great. Mm-hmm. They graduated their entire team plus half of the lacrosse team, and got drafted. So we know nothing about LSU this year because they're completely starting over. And welcome to the SEC, Mike Leach, who brings his air raid offense to the Bulldogs. And a quarterback that can actually throw the football. I didn't realize this, that he brought in grad transfer KJ Costello from our good old Stanford Fighting Trees.
Really?
Yes, KJ Costello from Stanford is a grad transfer and will be your starting quarterback for Mississippi State on Saturday. And suddenly this game is incredibly intriguing because you've got two high-powered offenses, and Leach, who's trying to install this offense, brought in a Pac-12 quarterback who understands how that works and can throw the football around, and put him under center. Correction, put him in shotgun, because ain't no air raid quarterback ever going to drop under center. That's never going to happen.
No, that's not happening.
I don't. The over under on this game was like 59.5. Don't care. Take the over. It's like this is what the Big 12. This is what you could be if you play defense. You can have these high powered offenses and contend in the national conversation. And that's what we're going to get to see on Saturday afternoon when we watch Mississippi State LSU. And it's going to be a romp. So keep that one on your agenda.
That'll be fun. It's a month, a full month before we have Big Ten football, but I did want to wrap up today by saying hello to our friends in the state of Nebraska who complained long and hard about they just want to play football. When the Big Ten postponed its season, we just want to play football. We might even go off and play football with other people. We just want to play. If you look at Nebraska's schedule, three of the first 4 weeks, half of their season, is Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State. So, our friends in Nebraska, you wanted to play football, you're going to have to play some football. and it's going to come right off the bat. Carla, cheers to our friends in Nebraska in the Big 12.
Oh, this season's such a hot mess. I love every minute of it.
I know. All the stuff and the doubts about the Big Ten season aside, just that one brief moment of fandom right there made me feel pretty good. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Check out all the fun this weekend, and then come back, and we will gloat about Kentucky's amazing win in Auburn, maybe.
or Coastal Carolina. Because who knows? Then maybe they'll be 3-0 by the end of the weekend, and then
that could be two. That could be two.
I'll
add Coastal Carolina to my Final Four.
Why not?
Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.